What's up, everybody? What's going on? Thank you for joining me on a here in Florida, stormy Tuesday. But it's Tuesday, and you know what that means? It's podcast day. I'm your host, the Cabrini kid himself, the champ, David Haywood. And joining me on the podcast today, I have a very special guest, Miss Kaylan K. And she's going to join me in a very important conversation that we're going to have revolving around trauma bonding in relationships. So, Miss Kaylan, welcome to the show. Say what's up to the people and let
Hey,
everybody
everybody.
know what you are involved in.
Hey, guys. So, my name is Kaylan. I actually am a resident of South Florida. I live in Pompano Beach. I have a nutrition company by the name of K's Natural Nutrients. So, I make wholesale and retail products of sea moss gels, natural infused sea moss beverages. I have elderberry tonics and things like that. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. And I also got into the mental health and wellness space because I realized that nutrition is not the only thing that you need to be better. You need mental health, you need spiritual well-being, you need all of that. So I got into that, and including my own path of my life journey and my experience, it fueled me to want to open this space and go into it to not only be able to help myself, but to inspire other people that no matter what they go through, that they can really accomplish anything and that they can get through some very difficult situations in their life. So, yes.
Absolutely, 100%. And we're going to have the links when the video gets posted. We'll have the links so that you guys can visit Kaylin's sites. You can check out the products that she offers, and you can also keep up with her on her socials as well. She spits a lot of knowledge. So we'll make sure that everybody gets plugged in there. But what we wanted to talk about today, and I saw Kaylin post this maybe about 2 weeks ago. It was about trauma bonding in relationships. And I think that it's a very interesting topic because it means different things to different people. But I think that there is also kind of a general school of knowledge about what trauma bonding is. So I think that before we get into that conversation, what type of traumas are we talking about? Like, what really is the trauma that people mention just kind of in this broad spectrum of trauma bonding?
Okay, so like you said, it actually means different things to different people. And my interpretation of it is this: the unhealed parts of you are reaching for something outside of you, right? And so when you have
Oh, looks like we lost her a little bit. We're dealing with some inclement weather here in Florida, so bear with us just a moment. Oh, looks like we almost got her. We almost got her there. Mm. Let's try this. That's one of the things you got to deal with in Florida, man. In season one, we did an episode in a hurricane with with Terry. So we used to dealing with it here in Florida. It's storming right now. So see if we can get her back here. Just one moment. While we're waiting for her to come back, We want to give a huge shout out to a couple of our sponsors real quick. If a lot of you probably haven't heard yet. Oh, looks like we got her back.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
It's being very weird out here due to this. This is so terrible, but it's okay. I'm not even, I can see you. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't hear you.
Yes, I can
know,
see
like, and
you.
my volume is all the way up. That's so weird. Hold on. I was getting into it, man. I was like, oh,
You can't hear me?
hold on. Let me see if I can move over here. Quick question. Is there like an app or anything that I could use? Because I just went into my email and clicked. So that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, that's the way is to click the link. Anything?
I can't hear you. Like I can only see like your lips moving and stuff. I can't hear you. I want to do
Okay.
this. Is there a way that you can resend me something?
Yeah. One second.
Okay, cool.
All right, we're gonna reset her link and see if that helps. But in the interim, until she comes back in, like I mentioned, we got a couple of sponsors. We actually are embarking on a new venture here coming up within the next, I would say, month or so. We're going to be launching our own Roku channel. That's going to feature a few different other content creators as well. And we're going to be curating the best content that we can get our hands on for all of you guys to enjoy. So right now, I think we have about 5 or 6 other creators who have committed to providing content to the Roku channel. So you'll be able to download our app on Roku and Fire TVs, and you'll be able to watch all of the content. So stay tuned for that. It's called Grindhouse Media, and that's coming up in the next month or so. Some of your favorite content creators are going to be on there. I've been working behind the scenes and getting these people ready, so they'll be on there as well.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. I can hear you too. What did I miss?
Nothing. I was just talking about some new ventures that we got coming out.
All right, cool. Okay.
But to go back to what we were talking about, trauma.
Yes.
And I think you had mentioned that it means different things to different people.
Yes. So you were asking me specifically what it is, or I'm just trying to remember the question so I can answer it particularly to how you asked.
Yeah. So what type of trauma are we talking about when we're thinking about the broad spectrum of it in the context of being in a relationship? Obviously, we're focusing on romantic, but it really could be any type of relationship. But when people say, trauma bonding, and they're kind of, the nuance is in a romantic situation, what kind of trauma are people talking about?
Okay, perfect. So, in other words, this is how I interpret it: the unhealed parts of yourself and the unhealed parts of another coming together and building off of those traumas that are not worked out and not taken care of. So, things that are actually very toxic and detrimental, that becomes a norm because that's all that person knows and it's all that you know. So, if you don't know another way to do something and you've been doing it that way your whole life, to you think that that's normal, and to them they think it's normal too, when it's actually not. So you have to go in and fix those patterns, but it's not just saying it. It's actually it's deeper than just telling yourself that you're going to do something different. It's literally unlearning to relearn, because the conditioning is in all of us. You know, we're all coming from
Mhm.
different forms of trauma since we were born. And with our different cultures and things like that, everyone has something that they've been given by their parents, and then their parents gave, you know, those things to those people's parents. And so the cycle continues on until you decide, well, this isn't actually okay. Um, when it comes on to the relationships, right? Like intimate relationships, because you have trauma bonding in different kinds of things. You can have it in friendship, you can have it in, you know, with your colleagues at work, but you can have it in boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It's really about, like I said, the unhealed parts of yourself that you find to be um, very passionate, like that exhilarating feeling. There's a ton of like intense passion. There's these feelings of like butterflies, and there's not a lot of calm. It's like you're addicted to the highs and the lows. You're not really addicted to the person, but it's what the feeling brings you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like being on drugs.
Right. Like you're liking the feeling of the up and the down, but because the consistency is not calm to you, if you're in a trauma bonded relationship where you're not healed, let's say that you're not healed, any kind of normalcy will feel unfamiliar and it will feel toxic to you because you're not used to that. Like your nervous system is not used to that. So if it's calm and it's cool and it's collected, it could come across as being very boring. It can come across as being, you know, oh, this is plain Jane. What's going on here? This isn't fun. But in actuality, that's the right thing. Is the stability, is the consistency, the care, not the highs and the lows. It's not your job to, you know, regulate someone else's emotions constantly, or to have to sacrifice yourself to have them like you or for you to be accepted, you know?
hmm
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that sounds a lot to me like the old phrase "nice guys finish last," because the guys who are not so nice provide those highs and lows, like you mentioned, whereas the nice guys are probably considered more boring, run of the mill. There's no excitement here, and that in turn leads to some disinterest, or like you mentioned, feeling like this is weird because there's no excitement. But the
Well, yeah,
excitement,
yeah, and it has different layers to it. I mean, it's a very it's a very interesting topic, and it's very deep, and it goes in so many different directions, and there's many layers to it, like an onion, right?
mhm,
And when you go into the depth of it, it's the neural pathways. It's very scientific, and we've been basically conditioned, like I said, many of us, none of us are exempt from it. No race, no culture, no nothing. We're not. None of us are exempt from it. The patterning, the styling, all of that from a child. And so when we're a baby, right, or a toddler, we're emulating. We're looking at our caregivers. We're seeing how these people are treating us and other people, and we're following that. And if that's not corrected, if there's no one person that comes in and says, hey, you know, we're going to change this, then that cycle continues. And it continues for your generation, then it continues for the next generation with your children, and then your children's children. And so it just continues. That cycle is not broken. Um, but I will say that there's a way, and I feel that if you're really dedicated to healing yourself, and there's things about you that you don't like that you want to fix and get better, the first thing is awareness. But to me personally, like, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Life experience for me has been my gold. There's no book, there's no guide, there's no rubric that could have taught me anything that I know, because life experience probably has been my greatest teacher. Like for
mhm.
myself, I did study and I took a liking and an interest in the field, but it was going through it that made me understand, like, I'm really in the thick of this. Like, I'm living in this. And
I'm
sometimes you're
living
a,
in some trauma right now.
yeah, sometimes you like someone because, first of all, think about this. When we're teenagers, right? what are we attracted to as, like, let's say a 17 or 18-year-old? We're not attracted to the mentality and the mindset and the spirit of a person. Oftentimes we're attracted to what they look like, and they smell good, and they have swag, and they talk good, and they have a great job, and ooh, and this and that, and the car. And so it's like, okay, those things are great, but that's not the person that you're actually going to date. Now,
Mhm.
we don't, like I said, many of us are not taught at that age to go on dates and ask the right questions, to understand family history, to see those flags that are red, to see those things. Like, we're not checking for that because we don't know that we're supposed to check for that. So it's like,
Yeah.
when you don't know, you can't even begin to figure out anything because you don't know. But when you finally realize it, you're like, wow, you're able to see everything. And then you can make informed decisions because now you know, and then you can move according to those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with you, especially when you said that experience is the best teacher. I think that that is it's an old saying for a reason because you can be taught certain things in a curriculum in school and you can get a degree and all these other things. Not to say that there's not a space for that, but life experience also teaches you things that you're not going to learn in a book. And I feel like that's because life doesn't always go according to plan. You can always write out something in a book, but that doesn't mean that life is going to fit it. So, I think that at our age, and how old are you?
So I'll be 36 in June.
Okay.
So I'm 35 right
Okay.
now.
When in June?
June 9th.
Okay. Gemini gang.
Yes, yes. How about you?
I'm June 3rd.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. My cousin is June 3rd too, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. So I think that we have, for people who are mid to late 30s, early 40s, we've gotten to the point now where we are, I guess, accepting our traumas and we are learning how to handle those. I think that people who are much younger haven't acknowledged it yet. And then people who are much older at the same time almost haven't acknowledged it because they've become more set in their ways. Even though they know there might be something that's traumatic that's affecting them, they're not going to change because um, this is just how it is, and I'm 60 years old. Um, so in relationships, do you feel like coming in with the knowledge of I need to look for certain things that may be affecting the other person? Do you foresee how that could come across as maybe digging too deep too early?
That's a great question. I will say yes and no. I will say that I think there's a gauge. I think that, like, there's like a 30-day mark, 60-day, 90-day, 6 months. I think that being yourself and being authentic is number one because there's no, like I said, there's no one way to go about really doing anything the right way. There's no one right answer. But if you can just be the authentic you that you are, then your energy is going to attract that which is for you, and it's going to also repel what's not like for you, because that vibrational frequency is, it's not going to, it won't allow there to be space for that to come in. So it kind of does the job for itself. You know what I mean? And I'm speaking like this and saying this from the perspective of someone that I'm an energy person. Like, I care about the spirit of a person. I care about the integrity and the character and the way that a person is. Do I like the way a person looks? Absolutely. Do I care about nice things? Yes, to an extent, to a degree. However, because of what I've been through in my life personally, I value more than anything. So to me, I know that that's not something that I'm going to find all over the place. And it's precious to me. That's just me personally. That's me being completely transparent and fully honest and confident in myself as I'm saying this to you.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't necessarily say there's any too early about any of that. anything too early about that. But it's more so about what you find important and what you want to figure out and what is true for you. Because if my intention is to be a long-standing girlfriend and to become a wife one day, I'm going to make sure that what I'm doing in my dating, I'm going to be very intentional about dating, right? And my value is high. I wouldn't consider myself to be like a lower value woman. So I'm going to hold myself to a standard that shows that I love myself, number one, like self-care. And I would want the other person to honor that and appreciate that as well. And I'm going to
Hmm.
make sure I ask the right questions because I know now the things I didn't know when I was a teenager, when I was just going into it blindly, like, oh yeah, you're cute, you smell good, so what's up? You want to get some nachos, and we just shoot the shit, sit around the table, and we're like, oh, so what are you doing this weekend, and blah blah blah, and it's just like, that's fine, but that's not getting to know somebody. That's not building anything.
That's
That's
hanging out.
it's lower level, yeah, and that's fine. There's a time and a place for that, but like when we're getting older and we care about, like I said, we care about our time on the planet, and we want to be intentional with our years that we have. You don't waste time and play around because you realize I have the present moment. I'm not guaranteed a future. So everything that I can do now to be the best version of myself and learn in that process, I'm going to do that right now. I'm not going to not do it now, But I think it's mindset. I think that it has a lot to do with what somebody wants in the soul. Everybody has a soul, right? Like we all have a soul. We have a soul's purpose. We're here to accomplish something. And not every person is going to elevate and grow in life. They're just not. There are a lot of people that are in their 50s and 60s and they're very much in their ego and they don't want to heal from their traumas and they don't want to look in the mirror and face that ugly truth. They don't want to. And you and myself and other people that are like us, for instance, we are a big threat to people like that because we show them the mirror that they don't want to face. So it's not that we're doing something wrong or that there's something wrong with us. It's that we're just that reminder to them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so the people that are on board that actually want to heal and to be like, you know what, I don't like this pattern, or I want to reframe my way of thinking, those people are going to be your best friend and they're going to love you and appreciate you because you're showing them the way to their greatest version of themselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Geneva checked in and said, with age and life experience comes wisdom. That's why we love Geneva. That's why most women don't want to be back in their 20s if given the option. We rather be older and wiser. Would you go back to 20
Would
now?
I go back to 20 personally?
Yeah,
So I was a young mom. I had my two daughters at 20 and 23. So I spent all of my 20s basically raising kids. I'm still raising them now. I have a soon to be 16-year-old and a soon to be 13-year-old. So I'm in the thick of the teenage years. It's very
right.
interesting. I'm learning a lot about grace and patience and all of that. And the times have changed. And even
Hmm.
20 years ago, it's so different. Like it was getting bad when I was their age, but now between TikTok and YouTube, it's just anyway, I'm having grace, I'm having patience. And would I go back to that time? It's conflicting for me. Yes and no. Yes, because if I could change something, I would. But then this is where that Gemini part of me comes in. I wouldn't go back because everything was designed for me to be in that position where I was so I can be the person I am now. So I wouldn't change anything because my mom always told me this. She said, any little difference in your path, any little thing that's changed, changes the whole course and the direction of your entire life.
Yeah.
And again, because everything is learning for me and everything is about my soul's evolutionary process, I don't question and go back and want to go back because I'm like, no, if everything I've been through led me up to this very particular moment in time right now, then no, I wouldn't want to go back. I would not. That's why I try to stay very present and I do my best to make sure that I don't have many regrets because I'm living intentionally and I'm staying present so that way I don't look back and say, dang, I took this person for granted, or I didn't heal this and I could have went to therapy and I didn't do that. And no, I'm doing it now. So that way in my future, I can say, you know what, I took advantage of that. I made sure I hit that person up. I made sure I spent more time. I made sure I healed, this pattern that wasn't healthy for me. and so on and so forth.
Okay. Like that. Felix, we got my man Flex checking in. He said, we chilling. Um, he agrees. He said, true story. Let's see who else we got. Felix said, nah, send me back. Felix said he would go back to 20 right now. And that may be a difference between men and women. Like Geneva said, a lot of women are like, nah, I wouldn't go back to 20. I would rather be my age now, knowing the things that I know. And a lot of dudes are like, oh, if I can go back and relive 20 through 28 and do it again, most dudes probably would agree
I
with
agree
that.
with her though, honestly, because for me, I don't like chaos. I'm a peaceful person. I appreciate peace. Anything that has my nervous system dysregulated, I don't want any part of that. Don't care what it is, don't care who it is. I'm like, I'm going to send you off with love and like, I just wish you well. But for me, anything that makes me feel uneasy, like any difficulty that's not necessary, I don't want to be a part of any of that with anybody. So I'm like her, like what she said, I really care about my peace and like that, inner great feeling of just well-being. So
Mhm.
it could be, like you
And
said, it could be the difference. You're right.
and so with acknowledging that people have trauma coming into a relationship, um, do you think that it's possible for people to fix that trauma during a relationship as opposed to before? And the reason I ask that question is because I think that a lot of women would rather not go through the fixing while in a relationship. They would rather you enter the relationship healed of that trauma. But I also think that there's something to be said for two people meeting, they fall in love, but they recognize that there's some trauma that needs to be worked through on either end or both ends, and working through that trauma together to grow together. So I can see it both ways. I can see a woman or a man saying, I don't want to deal with her because she's got trauma, or him because he's got trauma. But I could also see it the other way where the person says, I want to work through that with them.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so my answer to you is that I actually agree with what you said first. I do feel and believe that you can actually be in a relationship and you can heal while being in it. And the reason why I say that is because to me, healing is not linear. It's not an all for an end. You're not just going to heal and then that's it. Healing is a continuous thing, like you're constantly healing. So I think that when both people have number one patience, they have well number one awareness, right? Have to have patience and care to give the person space and allow them to grow in their presence. It can definitely work, but it takes both people getting back to being on a very similar vibrational frequency for that to happen. Because again, if I'm the only one, let's say, or you're the only one, and the person that you're with or the person that I'm with is closed off, they're not open, they think they know everything, they think, oh, there's nothing wrong, I don't need to fix this and that. Well, that's not a similar vibrational frequency. So you're going to repel that person. The person is not going to be attracted to you for the right reasons, and you're not going to want to stay around that for very long. But if it's the right energy, absolutely it can happen, because you can be better because someone comes in and they help you. Like they can actually increase the quality of your life and enhance you by their presence and by their energy. But it comes, like I said, with a level of patience, understanding, really taking yourself and putting yourself in their shoes and wanting their best interest. And I think that when two people pour into each other and they see that, you know what I'm giving is of value and what I'm giving is of value, it can work in that way. Yes, I agree. Hmm. But those
Flex,
things have to be there though. Okay.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think y'all both have to be on the same page, and knowing that you want to work through it, as opposed to one person wanting to work through it and the other person saying, I'm still trying to decide where this is going. So
Well, yeah, and we know what that is on a deeper level. That is the ego, right? That takes over and totally calls the shots and makes all the decisions. And so That's the other thing, is like being in your ego and operating from that place. It doesn't allow for you to see it. You don't have humility, you don't have grace, you don't have compassion, you don't have understanding, you don't have any of that, because you're in your ego, and your ego is dictating basically everything, you know?
Yeah. And Flex said, would it depend on the type of trauma? And I think that that's a good question, because there's some trauma that I don't necessarily know if there's an easy fix with any trauma, right?
Right.
But I think that there's some trauma that you can that's easier to address than other trauma. For instance, let's say
I agree.
someone has they have been cheated on in the past. Like, that's a trauma that, as the significant other in a relationship, you can address that by reassuring that person and then also not cheating on them. Like, that's easy to address, as opposed to you dating someone who's been sexually assaulted as a child.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
something that you're not probably going to be equipped to deal with as a significant other, and it will be a little bit harder, probably.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, that I agree with him and you as well. It's definitely different levels of it, varieties, and yeah, it hits different depending on what has happened. Absolutely.
Hmm. And that I think that that's where you mentioned earlier, being intentional with your time on this planet, right? Because the life expectancy of an African American male, I think, is 68, 70 years old.
Mhm.
White female, probably 78 years old. So for 68 years, you have this time on the planet. For you, maybe 78, 80, 85, you're a healthier person. So
Well, you know what? Not to
um,
cut you off or anything, respectfully, my grandmother and my great grandmother and my great great grandmother, they both lived until she lived until her 99th birthday, which was my great great grandmother, and then my great grandmother, she lived until her 97th birthday. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, but that's a long time to be alive, though. Like that's a long
it's
time.
it's a long time to be alive, but it's also a long time to be alive in a relationship with a person that has trauma that you don't have. And so when you said you're intentional, or you want to be intentional about where you put your energy and how you put it into your relationships, do you think that some people can't be blamed for being like, I don't want to spend the next 40 years doing this with this person because it's going to be too hard. I'd rather find an easier situation.
Absolutely, and this is where people have choice of free will, and you have what's called preferences. So I feel that anyone can have their preference. I feel that anyone is entitled to that. Now it's just about communicating it to the other person and then making your decision and going from there. And everybody's threshold for what is difficult and challenging looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Something might come naturally and more easier for myself and might be super difficult for you, or vice versa. Something might be so easy to you, and I'm just like, I cannot and I will not. And again, we're older, we've had life, so our patience tolerance also runs smaller. The threshold for the BS, that goes down significantly, because why we don't have time for that. That's crazy. No, like, people have to, like, be accountable. One of my favorite words is accountability, and
Mhm.
being responsible. And the thing is that you can't force a soul to level up and to elevate and to be where you're at, because everyone is operating at their own level of awareness. Every human
Mhm.
being is operating with the capacity of what they know, and that's it. And you can't force them. You can't do anything to propel that. You can drop nuggets and give jewels and give little hints and stuff like that, and plant seeds, but ultimately, that soul, that spirit, that person has to want to do. They have to want to do the work, and that's just their choice. It's just their preference. So yes, I do agree. I agree that you can be like, no, thank you, I'm good, because that's boundaries too, which is also important. You got to have those
I
boundaries.
like you, but I like you, but I know what this is going to be like, and I don't want to go down that road. And
Yeah, because that's too much energy that you're exerting, it's like you have to be able to, give and receive. I mean, give and take, right? It's like the bank. Like we're depositing and we're withdrawing. If the deposits and the withdrawals, the checks and balances are not leveling out properly, then it's going to be a disaster. You cannot have that imbalance, because that imbalance is not harmony, and it's going to show
Mhm.
up in other areas of your life. You're not going to have a peaceful house. Your kids are going to be affected. You're not going to feel good. You're going to be affected. So everything gets affected. Very true.
Yeah, and I feel like we have an opportunity when we're in relationships to approach situations like this with not only respect, but like you mentioned, accountability. And I think that how someone responds to that level of accountability is very important, because there's going to be people who are going to see it as constructive, and then there's people who are going to see it as an attack. And the person who sees it as constructive is going to be able to say, you know what, I know that you have my best interest at heart. You're giving me, pearls of wisdom. I want to work on that. The other person is going to say, I'm all right. I don't have a problem. You're the one with the problem, and I don't want to deal with this.
Yep. And that's where choice of free will comes in. Absolutely. That is absolutely 100% true.
So once people have acknowledged that there's an issue, they have some trauma. Once people have recognized that in the other person, if it's not them, what do you think is the best way for them to help that person? Is it always just going to be trauma specific? Or do you think that there's things that someone can do? Um, I guess that's kind of just like a best practice in that sense.
Hmm. That's a very good question. That's very thought provoking, actually. Oof. That was a really good question, because I'm over here like, you know what? Like, I have answers and I'm just trying to find the words to say what I want to say. Um, Give me a little bit more context, because like the creative juices are flowing and I'm like, I kind of want
Mhm.
to just like know my angle. So give me like a little context, if you
So,
don't mind.
like, so for instance, let's say I'm in a relationship with someone who has a lot of trauma. Is there kind of like a best practice way for me to approach dealing with them and their trauma? Or is there always just kind of be these different levels because there's different kinds of trauma? Like,
Uh-huh.
um, if she has daddy issues, is there just kind of like a baseline level of me saying, "Hey, babe, I understand that this is probably triggering for you. I know you went through this. I got you."
Okay.
Does that get redundant at some point because that's what you're always saying? Like, are there like best practices for dealing with different types of trauma, or is it just one blanket method
Okay.
if the trauma is not on your end?
Got you. Okay. So that makes sense. Okay. So I feel that enabling and always trying to understand without there being any growth or any attempt, I think that that's coddling, in my opinion, because like I said, I still feel and believe that it's up to the person, not the one helping, but the person that has the difficulty and the trauma that's going through it. They still have to face themselves at some particular point and be very real with themselves in the mirror. And that might feel ugly and uncomfortable, but it's not the partner's job. It's not fair for the other person either, aka the partner's job, to pacify the other person and say, okay, well, they went through all of this, so now I understand. So now I have to kind of weave my way around, and I have to be very careful with everything I say so they don't take it this way. And it's like, because now you're not being true to yourself. Now you're not being authentically you and showing up 100%, because now you're tiptoeing around this person, their responses, the reactions, and now this is also creating a trauma bond. So now you were healed, let's say, but now
Right.
you are now damaged, and now you are not okay. Now you are hurt because you got with someone that now they're kind of tampering with you, like it's tainted. So that's a very interesting question. There's not one size fits all. I think that it just depends on the level of the trauma, the type of it, and the person. And if they really are like, man, this happened to me, but I truly want to feel better and be different, and I'm going to take accountability. I appreciate you helping me, but I still have to help myself. You still have to insert your energy. You know what I mean? Like, as the person that's hurt to then want better.
Yeah. And how does that change when the trauma in the relationship is shared by the two people?
How does that
Like
change?
let's say they both go through the same traumatic event. Let's just assume, and I don't know if this is actually possible, but
Okay.
there's no trauma before. They've been dating for 6 months. Something traumatic happens, and now these two people share the same trauma.
Okay, well, that could go one of two ways, and I think it's really up to the decision of both. So it could go south, it could go like there's no resolve, you know, neither one of them are mature, or it can be like where, okay, now we both feel this because we both went through it, but we're going to show up and be the best version of ourselves, and we're going to get through it together. I think it boils down to choice base. I do. And like what you want out of it, honestly.
Okay. Um, and how would that be different if it was romantic versus just like friends? Because like we said at the beginning, this can be across different types of relationships, you know? So if you and your friend are both having a traumatic situation, how does that change when it's not romantic?
Well, I think that it's different in different ways because there's a level of like vulnerability that you have to expose and be when you're like intimately involved with someone. You're so, it's like the band-aid is on your arm and you just rip it off and it's just like it's exposed, right? Like it's just raw. And there's this preconceived notion that you would be judged. So you want to show up and look the best in front of that person because that's an intimate partner. But a friend is like, you're not intimate with that person. So you can kind of let your guard down a little bit and not feel ridiculed because they're just your friend. And I know it's really funny. It's so funny. Psychology's funny and crazy, but that's human behavior though. People in this projection. It's total projection. Like you would feel so much more comfortable talking to someone that you don't know
Right.
because they don't know enough to come in to judge. But the minute that it's someone close to you, you want to feel like you have to show up and almost be perfect, damn near, because you care and value their opinion about you. So it all boils down to just the person and how real and raw you can be with yourself because this is what I learned, and it took me a while to learn this. If I can be brutally honest with myself to a point and to a fault where I can be that honest and be forward and vocal about it, that means that nothing that anyone says could put me down because I'm already exposing myself. If I'm owning it, what can you do now to hurt me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing because I'm taking it. I'm taking it. I'm taking the L. I'm taking it for the team. I'm taking it. But if I'm afraid and I don't have courage and I'm lacking that strength, and now here you come and you expose that, well, you have one up on me because I didn't do it for myself. So that's the courage. So if you gain that courage and you have that, doesn't matter what anybody says and thinks. But to answer that question, I really feel that it is up to the person. I feel like it's up to the person and the other person, two souls, honestly. I really do. I think the relating can be different, but ultimately the core value of it, it's the same. It's definitely the same.
I can see that. I can see that. Do you think that knowing your significant other had a significant amount of trauma before you met them would prevent you from dating them?
So if okay, I'm going to answer this question honestly from
Yeah.
from my from myself, from my experience. If I'm aware of it, yes, it could, because I know what I'm looking for, and then I would automatically want to avoid that, and I wouldn't entertain it. But if I don't know it, then I'm signing myself up for it, and I'm going to figure it out along the way. And it might be
You're already hooked up at that
it
point.
might be, yeah, it might be when I'm in too deep, but then but that's my lesson I have to learn. So it all goes back to self-awareness, because now I'm getting closer to God, to source energy, to the Most High, which is back to here, myself, my home here, because we're all from source. We all, doesn't matter whether it's Jesus, it doesn't matter if it's Buddha, it doesn't matter what religion, whatever you are, it's still source energy. You know what I'm saying? And so it's still your path that you have to walk and go through, because if you don't go through those things, you won't come to the understanding that you have right now. There's just no way, there's no absolute
Yeah.
other way that it can happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not. But yes, I agree. Knowing, being aware will have you preventing yourself from walking into harmful things, such as a huge red flag that you might find to be very attractive. And you're like, but oh no, that's not good for me. Nope. That can look good. It can be
I don't like
glittery.
that. I don't like that.
Yeah, it can have confetti coming out of it, rainbow sparkles. I do not care. No, thank you. And you walk away, because but that's discernment, and that comes with time and wisdom and understanding and life experience. It doesn't come from just from being told, because you have to feel sometimes in order to really learn, and that sucks. But we all have that stubborn gene to us, where it's like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, try it. You go and try it. Oh, what did I tell you? Ooh. But now you know, because you're like, I never want to feel that again a day in my life. Ever. Ever, ever,
Right.
ever. Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about accountability,
Mhm.
what does for yourself,
Okay.
what do you personally enact or implement to hold yourself accountable when it comes to things that you know you're dealing with on your end, for your own mental health, for your own past experiences? What
Okay.
have you put in place to make sure that you're handling it the way that you need to be healthy mentally and in your relationships?
So first and foremost, I make sure that the things I talk about and what I stand for, I'm real about that. That I'm not just doing things because I want attention, or I'm asking for validation, or I need someone to love me and care about me. No, I've been there and I've done that. I had to grow up and I had to become a woman, right? And so through that process of growing up and becoming a woman, I started to understand more about myself and that self awareness, and who am I really? What am I made of? What do I like? What do I dislike? And that is making sure that the things I talk about, that's making sure the things that I'm doing, that I'm a walking vessel and I'm actually enacting those things every day in my real life. So if I'm talking about being honest and having integrity and being patient, well, I'm going to show that in my actions to my children and to my partner and to my friends, and I'm going to do my part. Now, I can't do their part for them. So, of course, I make sure too that like I don't also let my boundaries down, and I don't let people walk all over me, because I've learned where that's not okay. So I will put people in their place respectfully, and I will let people know, no, that's not okay. And I will say no a lot, because being a person that's loving and that has a light energy, you're not a yes person. You're still not a person that is going to allow people to just do you any kind of way and say whatever and feel like it's okay. No, you still have to hold them accountable, and they might not like that. But holding yourself accountable, it's not difficult for me to do that. I enjoy feeling good. So I make sure that when I wake up in the morning, I have gratitude. I'm very grateful every day. And I'm intentional with the way I feel. Like I could experience something very difficult and challenging, but it's still my decision on how I'm going to show up for myself, because I can take it two ways. I can either allow it to consume me, or I can say, you know what? I'm not going to let this consume me. I'm going to feel it, but I'm going to still show up, be kind, be generous, be grateful, and still have a smile on my face. So I do my action with my words, so that way they match up. That's how I hold myself accountable.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. And before we end, I want to touch on something that's very important because you mentioned you're a mother, I'm a father. My son is 11, he'll be 12 this summer. And early on, when we first started, you mentioned um, not passing that trauma on to your children from what you may have experienced as a child from your parents. And I feel like for me, I've been hyper vigilant to not transfer things that happen to me to him. Almost to the point of probably being a little bit more lenient with him. How do you address that with your children as opposed to the things that you've experienced um, as a parent?
So how I address that is that I had to learn through messing up. So I did transfer some things onto them that probably weren't okay. But the difference is this: knowing and understanding that I course corrected. So immediately when I knew that what was going on and what I was facilitating, even if I was doing it unconsciously, I came to a stop. And now I created a new pathway which promotes the continuation of the healthy things. So,
Mhm.
repeating myself with the things that matter in terms of, helping them with their self confidence, telling them that they're beautiful, having a healthy relationship that I'm in that demonstrates we don't argue. There's no fighting. I'm not being names called. I'm not being gaslit. There's no abuse, physical abuse. So they're not seeing their mom hurt on a continuous basis,
Mhm.
or I'm not hurting the other person. So that's
True.
embodying a certain kind of, behavior for them to model, and they can look at that and say, wow, my mom, she's actually happy. Wow, she's with someone that honors her and wants her to be herself and doesn't want her to change, versus being in a controlled, let's say relationship where there's abuse with, like, you can't do this or you can't do that, or the person undermining your abilities and not believing in you, and you know what I mean, like all of that stuff. So I do that through demonstration in my actions and having a lot of conversations with them since they're teenagers. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that 100%. Like, I think that it's letting them see it in practice as children is super important. Super important. But then also making sure that you talk to them and talk them through things because I grew up with parents who didn't really talk through emotions. And I think a lot of people grew up with parents who probably didn't talk through emotions either. So I think it's super important that you talk to them. I think, I commend you on that for having those conversations as young women as well.
Right. I do apologize. I don't know what happened. The volume just gave out again. This weather has been, I'm so grateful to have been on this with you, by the way, for going on an hour. But this weather is a no no. So I can barely hear you. It's very
Is
low.
this better?
It kind of is, but it's still chipping in and out. That's
Okay.
why I have the phone
Okay.
like this.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're gonna chalk it up to the Florida weather.
Yes,
We're
absolutely.
used to it. We're used to it here. I'm in Tampa, so I'm used to it. So,
Yeah.
um, but we'll go ahead and wrap up. Um, let everybody know who's watching now or who's gonna watch in the future. Let them know where they can find you, your social medias, like you mentioned earlier, the nutritionals. Let them know all about the things that you're doing and where they can find you.
Okay. So I have been in business for 5 years. My company's name is Kay's Natural Nutrients, and the online store is kaysnaturalnutrients.com. I ship throughout the US, so everything that you want from me, you get within 2 to 3 business days. Everything is made fresh organic. I do customized sea moss gels, sea moss infused electrolyte beverages. I have like a elderberry tincture and an herbal tonic. And then I also have a couple of ebooks that are on there as well. And I have a YouTube channel. It's called The Healing Reset with Kaylan. And yes, that's what I do. I do it. I love it. It's full time, and I'm very grateful for it.
Absolutely. We need more health in the world for sure. For
Yes.
sure.
Oh, and I meant to say this. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. The name is Kay's Natural Nutrients. You'll see it.
Kay's Natural Nutrients.
Yes.
Everybody, the link will be posted in the description when we post the video. So you will see the links and you will be able to partake. Kaylan, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us today, going over basically what trauma is and trauma bonding in a relationship.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everybody else, like, subscribe, share. You can find the Cabrini Kid podcast on Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be launching a new venture. We're going to have our own Roku channel here coming up in probably the next month or so. So get ready for that too. But we will have another episode for you here coming up in the next month. We're going to drop this here, so be looking out for it too. But for everybody else who's going to watch later on and everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you to Felix. Thank you to Geneva. And anybody else who watched, we appreciate you, and we'll check it for you next time.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure.